This is the Voice of the Land podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to VTL Extra post-show clip here for the Voice of the Land podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kevin Arnold. Alongside me, my brother, Nick Paulus, and of course, our producer extraordinaire behind the proverbial glass, Peter Tillip. And we have a conversation that, we always try to do a fun topic at the end of the podcast. Sometimes podcasts we get into a nice discussion.
Run a little long, yeah.
They go a little long, and you just don't want to push too much all into one and have too much overflow of content. So we figured, why not split this up and have the fun conversation as an extra clip and get people over to our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the comments below and let us know what you think. And let us know, what is the biggest game or biggest sporting event, biggest events in relation to sports you've ever gotten to be a part of live in person. And let us know in the comments below, and we're going to answer that question right now. And I am going to start, as I always do, right across the table with my brother Nick Paulus.
Yeah.
Had a couple weeks to think about this. What is the biggest game or biggest sporting related event you've ever gotten to attend or see in person?
The biggest and probably best game that I've ever been to was the divisional series against the Yankees a couple of years ago, 2017, I believe. They were getting crushed. Going into, it was the game 2.
Okay, I was going to say, was that game 2?
It was game 2. They were getting crushed. I remember my wife and I, we went out with my buddy Tyler and his wife Holly, and we met them up, and we were going to go to the standing room only. So we were sitting out line, for 2 hours, waiting to get in there. Finally get in. Game's going to crap. They're getting blown out. I'm furious because obviously it's a playoff game. It's a huge game. I really thought the Indians were going to win it. They won game 1, come back, and we're no doubt we're going to crush the Yankees. We'll be fine. And it just didn't start off that way. If I remember correctly, Edwin hit a double and actually sprained his ankle, going into second base. And as soon as he, got basically carted off the field, I'm like, man, here we go. Here we go again. They're going to lose this game. And, woe is me. It's the old Cleveland. Woe is me. Right. Crap. And I think it was right around the 5th inning. I never leave games early. I try not to, because anything can happen. I remember talking to my wife, and I was looking over at her. I was like, man, we're getting crushed right now. I don't know. And she's like, well, she was the voice of reason. At that point in time, she was like, well, let's give it another, inning or two, and we'll go from there. Thankfully, we stayed, because we were right at the foul pole, right where Frankie hit the grand slam to bring us right back up. I kid you not, Kevin. I stuck up my hand like I thought it was coming right to me. I thought God was sending that ball right to me. It went 10 rows up, because it bounced off, bounced off the pole. But that was the coolest sound I've ever heard, was the dong, and no idea where the ball went. Going crazy. Actually got on the jumbotron that night.
Did you?
Nice. I did. My buddy had, Tyler had this red wig on, and it, the points, and I put that on. I got on the jumbotron. As we were walking to our car after the game, I got noticed. They were like, "Oh, dude on the jumbotron." I was like, "Yeah, what's up, man?" So that was pretty cool. But the other game, real quick, was my wife's. Well, it would have been her second game. I ever took her to a Browns game. The first game we went to was the Green Bay Browns Packers game. That was the 0-16 year. The Packers ended up winning in overtime, because DeShone Kizer likes to throw interceptions and whatever. That's not the game I'm talking about, though.
Okay.
This was the Baltimore Ravens game. It went to overtime. It was a great game. This was Baker's rookie year. It was got us to 2-1, I believe, that game. We were just coming off the loss against Oakland. Yeah. And it was against once again against the Ravens. I think it was 12-9 or something like that. It was a real low scoring game. Baker was balling out of his mind, though. He had 300 plus yards, 340 yards or whatever. And I mean, he was great that game. And I remember, I'm normally a little intoxicated whenever I go to games. That game, I was sober. We were fine. We tailgated, but I was sober at that point in time. And I remember, something happened to where the Ravens intercepted Baker, and one of our players got knocked out. I think it was Jarvis got leveled. And all the Browns players, what the hell's going on? And I'm like, what's going on? Well, we intercept Joe Flacco. I think it was like the next possession, and we crushed someone. I can't remember who it was, but someone got leveled. Ravens player, and all the Ravens sideline. Oh, what the hell? I kid you not. I screamed as loud as I could. F you Ravens, and I have a very loud voice as it is. I screamed. My whole section just like stared right at me like, yeah, let's get behind this guy, yeah. So we're going crazy, but it was, that entire game, we ended up winning on a Greg Joseph field goal, which,
Greg Joseph.
The ball went sideways. It wasn't going this, it was going like this. And I didn't think that he made it because it got down. I think it was like 4 seconds left in overtime, and the kick goes sideways. I'm like, he didn't make it. And then everyone's cheering. I'm like, what the hell? Like, he made that? And everyone's getting I thought Hugh Jackson got carried off the field. I'm pretty sure he got carried off the field. I believe that was his last win as head coach too. So it was very interesting.
I've never seen a ball come off of a kicker's foot more weird than Greg Joseph. Not just even in that moment. Like, there was a few of those like that. They were like knuckleballs. Like, it was soccer player-esque, like not being able to transition to kicking a football. It was like, like that's what you want to see with a soccer ball. You want to see it knuckle so it goes away from the goalie and they can't really get to it. But not like sidewinder or like a curve. You're not trying to bend it like Beckham. You're trying to hit it straight. Hit it straight through the uprights there.
Yeah.
Peter, how about for you?
Oh, there's a couple games. One that I think about was back in the late 90s. So I think it was 97, and it was during the Indians World Series run where they played New York, and it was a Saturday night game. I talked about it before on the podcast, and it was just a great game because it was one of those where the Yankees would come in, and a lot of times the Yankees would just beat up on the Indians, but the Indians, it was like the turning point for that series. It was like the ALCS. I still have the ticket stub somewhere at home. And it was just a fantastic game. It was electric atmosphere. It was fantastic. So that's a special memory for me. Unfortunately, they went on to lose the World Series. But then...
Well, we can't have it all.
We can't have it all. But the other game that stands out to me is I was fortunate enough in, I guess it would have been 2002. It was the first year in recent memory that the Ohio State Buckeyes won the national championship.
Okay.
And it was the game against Washington State, the Washington State Huskies. And I remember, I think it was 27-3 Washington at halftime. And it was just a killer. I was like, man, this is rough. It's like, I love the Buckeyes, and it's, I get to be down here in the horseshoe. It was my first game in the shoe.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of bummed out, still excited to be down there. And, the crowds down there are just insane. Then Maurice Claret busts out in the second half. And it goes crazy. And I can't even remember what the final score was. But all of a sudden, it's like they couldn't stop him. And he's just busting through the line, and scoring. And it was fantastic. It was just such an awesome atmosphere to be around. I would love to be able to get down there for another game when, after the social distancing stuff is over, where they have, they have 500,000 people partying down there.
Oh my God, yeah.
It was a game that they. ESPN Game Day was down there. It was supposed to be a noon game, and they moved it back to 3.
Okay.
And so I was down there early for tailgating with my brother-in-law. So we were drinking beforehand, but it was just the sea of scarlet and gray.
Yep.
We went over to the Skull session for the band because my brother-in-law, his younger brother, was in the band at the time, and it was just an amazing time, and that was kind of it felt like a turning point for that season. Because it seemed like they just started to just continue to roll after that. So that was probably the one that sticks with me the most.
That's awesome.
So I thought about this question actually. I thought this question up because my girlfriend Jan and I were having a conversation, just kind of talking about some of the games that she had gotten to go to, especially with the Indians, because with baseball, trying to have those baseball conversations, trying to keep that going with no baseball this year. Being able to go to a lot of the All-Star stuff last year, and then was at game 22 of that win streak. And I believe went to a World Series game as well.
That's awesome.
And I'm thinking I say that I'm such a big Cleveland sports fan, Ohio State sports fan, and you guys know that I am. You guys know how diehard I am. But I don't have a lot of those big moments that I've been able to attend. I've had to watch them through my TV.
Sure.
And I've actually never been I've been to the shoe, but I've never been to the shoe for an Ohio State football game. Had a chance when I was in college because my best friend said, I'm getting season tickets. You're coming down for a game. All 4 years. Never got a call.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. That's
right.
terrible.
But I need to get down to the shoe no matter who they're playing, just to experience that atmosphere, because each game day for Ohio State is amazing.
I went down there real quick. I went down there it was Jim Tressel's. I believe it was his first game. I think he was coaching against Kent State.
Okay.
And it was my first and only game that I've been to the show. And I went down with my dad. We left at halftime. They were up by 30 or whatever. And we went to go see my uncle, and we watched the rest of the game over at his place. But the only time I've ever been down to the show. I'm 11 years old, I think, at that that time. It was so much fun though.
Yeah, and my sister had recently taken me a few years ago, taking me down to the campus to just show me around. We went on a trip to Columbus, and we were going to a Columbus Crew game. Yeah, and so we were just going around the Ohio State campus, and she is a tremendous photographer. I've been sharing some of her stuff. Pacific Northwest, I think it's PNW Photography, and now she's got
I follow her. Yeah.
She's gonna be doing part-time real estate photography now, so she's making strides in her passion too, which is cool to see. But she took this really cool picture of me just kind of looking out over the practice fields and stuff, and kind of the shoe right behind. But it's I've only ever been to just see around the outside. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking man, I'm such a diehard fan, but what big moments have I gotten to see those World Series or All-Star games and stuff? And so I was thinking about it, and there was one that would have been at the top of the list had we stayed for the whole game. It was the game with the Indians versus the Mariners, where they were down 12-2, I believe, and they ended up coming back to win. I think it was 15-14 in extra innings. They came back to tie that game. We ended up leaving in the seventh inning, and we were sitting basically upper deck, right field, right where those seats used to be, and used to be able to go around there. And it was my dad, my grandfather, my mom's dad, and myself at this game. And he was the big baseball fan, but as he's getting older, it was harder to sit in those seats, and they were down 12-2, and his back started to hurt, so we wanted to make sure Grandpa got home safely. Yeah. And we're thinking, okay, well, we got to spend quality time together, getting the family together, and all three big sports fans in the family, and we start listening to the game on the way home.
Oh man.
And ended up staying up, and oh my goodness, what did we just my dad and I looked at each other what did we just miss? And then even looking at the Browns, before the last couple seasons with Baker being here, I hadn't really been to a Browns game outside of a preseason game. Well, then these last couple years, I was at the first game that Baker ever took a snap in.
The Jets.
I was at that game. I was actually doing some stuff for ESPN Cleveland, and one of my buddies came down, gave me a ticket, so I cleaned up all the stuff we were doing that day, went back to the studio, then once we were done, went to my car, and it was a really humid September night. And I changed into a Browns t-shirt. I sprint. So I make it before halftime. I sprint, and I get there with about 5-6 minutes left in the half, and that's just before Tyrod Taylor had gotten hurt, and then you start to hear the chants for Baker, and he comes in, and that epic game to break first win, since the previous season. I was at the game. I was at the first home game when they tied the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was at that game too.
Yeah.
I was at the game where the Myles Garrett helmet swing happened last year.
Were you at that game?
I was at that game. Yes, we were on the opposite. We were in the opposite end zone, upper deck. So we saw a brawl breaking out. We didn't know what happened until, Jana had gotten a notification from Andre Knott saying, "Well, there goes Miles."
Right.
So we did. Then we went on and we saw the swing, and we kind of saw what happened and kind of caught up because it was just so far away. I guess the biggest moment for me is more personal for me when I spent quite a lot of money, but it was an early Father's Day gift. The first year LeBron came back, that first season, that first run, where they were in that series with the Bulls. Remember, Derrick Rose hit that game winner in Game 3 to have them go up 2-1, and it looked like the Bulls were about to take that 3-1 lead, and LeBron hits that corner shot in United Center to bring it back 2-2.
Yep.
So I bought 2 tickets right underneath the basket, one of the baskets. Spent $400-$500 on that for my dad and myself, who was the big basketball guy, to finally go to a playoff game and a Game 5, which he always told me and taught me. The winner of Game 5 in a tied series.
My dad says the same thing.
Goes on to win the series. So it's a big moment in what the Cavs were trying to do, the quest that they were trying to start that first season.
Yep.
And I think it was the Eastern Conference semifinals. And to see, I think the Cavs did go down that game, and LeBron and Kyrie led I think it was just LeBron. I think maybe Kyrie was hurt in that series, but they came back in that game, and then just the atmosphere in that place afterwards, and kind of being able to just experience that with my dad, and then also having, seeing the actual win to go to the last finals in 2018.
Yeah.
Being at the watch party for that too, kind of experiencing those 2 big playoff moments, and being able to do it with the person that brought me up and kind of showed me that. Those are those big moments that I've been able to be a part of. Like I would love a World Series to happen again, and be able to have the tickets and maybe push that $500 towards a World Series ticket, or some sort of big event like that. I mean, I regret not being downtown during Game 7 for all those things, but I had to watch that for that championship. I had to watch those things the way I did, and I had to watch the Indians games the way I did those seasons, just for superstition purposes. But also would love to be there. A lot of my big sports moments I get to see in person. I feel fortunate. They have such a deep-rooted meaning. It's not just a big moment in Cleveland sports history.
Yeah.
It ends up being a big, deep-rooted meaning and connection with my family, and that's the best thing, I think. Like family and friends that you've come up with, that have been the same kind of sports fan that you are, or passionate about the same thing you are, whether it's Playhouse Square or anything like that. You get to experience those moments with them. It just makes it so much more impactful, meaningful, and memorable, where it lasts so long for you as well. And that's the thing. And if no matter what sort of big moment it is, whether it means a lot to you, or it's just one of the biggest moments in Cleveland sports history, recent or in the past, let us know in the comments, or reach out to us at VTL_pod on Twitter and Instagram, and at Voice of the Land on Facebook. Go ahead and reach out to us, message, comment, whatever. Comment below on this YouTube link as well. Subscribe. Let us know, what is the biggest sports moment in Cleveland or Ohio sports history that you have ever gotten to see in person, and what does it mean to you? Let us know, and we'll share some of those comments as we start Season 4. But that's going to wrap it up for this extra clip and all of Season 3, because the next time you see us, it'll be Season 4, and we got big things coming. So stay tuned to YouTube, all of our social media platforms, at CLE_Paulus, at Kevin and Seven, and of course LPV Productions, NEO Sports Network, and Peter Tellup on social media as well. Let us know what you want to see, what you don't want to see, and we look forward to a big Season 4. What a way to end Season 3.
Wait.
Bigger things coming in Season 4. So thank you so much for all that you do, Peter, all that you do, Paulus. For Nick Paulus, for Peter Tellup. That's the end of our extra clip. We appreciate everybody who watches, who listens. Don't let anyone ever tell you it's just a game. And we always say it. We love you all 3,000. Peace. Bye.